We mentioned Notre Dame. I kind of want to talk a little bit. There's been a lot of talk lately. You see what UCLA and USC moving now to the Big Ten, and there's talk about it. What kind of your thoughts on the state of the NCAA, Notre Dame? Could we be joining a conference, brother?
Man, I don't think we're going to have any choice, Drew. College football, as we knew it, as I knew it, as you knew it, is going to change, and it's changed dramatically. The regionality, the tradition, the history, the rivalry, all of those things are going to look different. And now it's this national footprint. And what's interesting is that Notre Dame has been an independent for almost 100 plus years. And we've been one of the only schools that's had a national footprint where we have fans in all 50 states across the country, whereas most programs are very regionalized. That's kind of been the backbone of what's made college football so special. When you get the Iron Bowl with Alabama and Auburn, you get the big game between Ohio State and Michigan. You have Stanford, Cal on the West Coast, USC, UCLA. But now what we're going to see with Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC and USC and UCLA joining the Big Ten, it's a national landscape and marketplace now. The old school, we're all in this together, and the shackles of what the NCAA's definition maybe of what amateurism was is gone. The 9-0 Supreme Court decision changed all of that. That opened the door for NIL, the immediate, transfer, the immediate eligibility, the transfer portal. All of these things in and of themselves individually would be seismic changes, but it's just now happening collectively. And because of that, I think Notre Dame for the first time has to strongly consider joining a conference, because if not, scheduling becomes a problem. Having access to the new national championship potentially becomes a problem. But the biggest problem, and this is unfortunate, is revenue. Like, it's estimated that each member school of the Big Ten can earn up to $100 million per season. That's going to be their payout. Right now, the SEC and the Big Ten, I think, is at $55 million. That's basically going to double. Notre Dame has always maintained its independence, and the delta, maybe the 20 grand or 20 million a year difference that they would get by standing independent that the other schools got, they were able to navigate that. But I look at it like this: that 20 million that Notre Dame has compared to the 100 million that the Big Ten member schools are going to enjoy moving forward in the next couple of years is seismic. And that's a delta that you can't overcome. And I use the analogy simply as this, Drew. Me and you are going to have a cooking contest. You get $100 to buy groceries. I only get $10 or $20 to buy groceries. Who's going to cook the better meal? It's going to be the guy that can spend $100 to buy whatever it is he wants. And that's the reason that I think Notre Dame and Jack Swarbrick have a huge decision to make. And I would be shocked if we didn't, in some form or fashion, join the Big Ten. It's not if, it's how, when, and where.
Is that 100 million you talk about, is that regardless of the school's legitimacy in terms of contention for the college football playoffs and how significant, like Rutgers will be getting the same as Ohio State? Is that kind of how the conference structure works for these schools?
Yes, it's all member institutions get an equal piece of the pie. So the reason the Big Ten brings over USC and UCLA is because they're in the number 2 media market. Those two programs, those blue bloods, those iconic schools, and certainly USC is quite a bit higher than UCLA, at least on the football side. That opens up a lot of eyeballs. It also gives the Big Ten schools an opportunity multiple times to come to the West Coast and to recruit California. The model that Notre Dame's always used, everybody's kind of, figuring this deal out. So Rutgers and Maryland, when they joined the Big Ten, that was all about the Eastern Seaboard and opening up those markets and having East Coast avenues to recruit. That's why Notre Dame joined the ACC, so they could take that Southeastern Atlantic belt through there and be able to bring those players in. Notre Dame will be able to join the Big Ten and maintain their relationship with Navy, which is a sacred cow because of what happened in World War II and basically Navy renting Notre Dame's campus and keeping the doors open. They've got built-in rivalries already with USC that can stay there, and they can still have the Shamrock Series where they can go into Texas, they can go into Florida, they can play wherever it is they need to penetrate the recruiting markets and still have that luxury while creating an incredible short drive and geographic relationship with the Big Ten. I think Notre Dame was a little bit averse to join the Big Ten because they didn't want to get lumped in with everybody else. with the rapid landscape and how quickly it's changing, I just don't know if we're going to have that luxury anymore, because the opportunity costs moving forward are going to be too significant to overcome.
How is Notre Dame able to keep that relationship with Navy, the Shamrock Series, those things you mentioned? Are those just addendums that they would write up in their contract with the Big Ten, or does the scheduling of, I don't know if it's 12 or 13 games, do they have a 3-game buffer where they can go outside the conference and maintain those games like you're talking about?
That's going to be really interesting, and a lot of it depends on how big these conferences get, right? We're at 16 now. If they go to 20, if they go to 24, do they go to 30? Is it going to be the 64 plus Notre Dame and get to the 65 and have the 4 super conferences? All of that is yet to be determined. There's also something that's floating around about whether or not you get to, a critical mass of 30 plus teams. And it's the AFC NFC model that the NFL enjoys, where CBS will take the AFC, Fox will take the NFC, and then NBC will get the Sunday night game, and it kind of gets parsed around. That is, if you're just solely doing it for money, is in the best interest of the conferences. Now, whether or not the TV networks would be willing to do that is yet to be determined, but this is all about money. And the interesting thing is, post-COVID, what we learned is how fiscally irresponsible intercollegiate athletics is. If you or I ran our households as poorly as the NCAA and these member institutions have done, we'd be out on the street. We're 2.5 years away from, or removed from, Stanford cutting 16 varsity programs because there's no money. And then NIL comes up, and boom, overnight, there's hundreds of millions of dollars to be able to give these 17 and 18-year-old kids to entice them to come to campus. And that's why we're seeing this accelerated shift towards this new model. And this is all right before college football playoff 2.0, mind you. So if that's 8 teams or 12 teams is floated around, it just becomes this exponential pie. So this is the opportunity for these schools to cut the fat.